this webinar is held by Wendu, right? So Wendu will talk a little bit about ourselves, probably at the end of the webinar. We want to make sure you get some good value today before we get into ourselves and what we do. So the Startup and SME series, why we said we were going to start this series is because from our interaction with a lot of startup founders and a lot of SMEs, we've discovered, and there's also a lot of statistics to back this up as well. We've discovered that a lot of startups and SMEs are not so particular about cloud security, right? So it's sort of like the adage that says until something hits you, you're not really ignorant, right? Like we perish from the lack of knowledge. So because we are ignorant about how cloud security can harm us and our businesses, we really do overlook cloud security. So that's why we're starting this Startup and SME series. And of course, one of the major, what's it called? How would I put it now? One of the major silver linings with startups is the lack of resources. So we don't have all the billions of dollars, we don't have the millions of dollars in the bank accounts to budget for cloud security or to budget for whatever it is we need to budget for. So we said, how can we help startup founders or people who want to start tech businesses, tech companies who want to build products and want to put it out there for the whole world to see and to use? We don't have the billions and billions and millions of dollars to protect their business or to protect their life's work, right? So we said we would begin this series, the Startup and SME series, and the maiden edition, which is a cloud security without breaking the bank. So this is the maiden edition. So we're glad about this. We're excited about this, and we're excited about all of you guys that are here joining us for this maiden edition. And we hope that you do get good value, very good value. We have two amazing speakers with a lot of experience in cloud security in both AWS and Azure, multi-cloud experience. And we hope we're able to get a lot from them. I introduce Omotolani Olowosule. Omotolani is a doctoral researcher in cloud security for both startup and enterprise. So she is a professional that is tasked with helping organizations design and implement security measures. She has a lot of experience with startups and also with enterprises. So she will be answering questions and talking about cloud security trends, her experience as a cloud security expert, give us certain use cases of security breaches. She has experience, she's done a lot of research, so I'm sure she has a lot of review in that regard, and also the importance of taking cloud security seriously. I want her to instill the fear of God in our hearts, that we need to understand that we must take cloud security seriously, because it is very sad how a lot of us do not take cloud security seriously for whatever reason. So, Omotolani, over to you.
So yes, I will just do a brief introduction of myself. My name is Omotolani, and I am currently a doctoral researcher in the UK. My PhD is on cloud security. Funny enough, it's focused on startups as well. And I am also a cloud security architect in one of the big fours in the UK. So yes, I have about 3 to 4 years experience as a cloud security architect and cloud security analyst. Yes, the first question is the importance of cloud security. Cloud security is actually very important. And since we are talking about startups and SMEs, it is one thing that from my research, I've come to understand that it is of second priority to them. So for startups, I believe that cloud security is almost like an afterthought. So they try to think about cloud security after the incident has occurred. Now, we all know that cloud is a metered service, pay-as-you-go service, cost-friendly, and it gives so many businesses the opportunity these days to spin up quickly, start up businesses quickly. You don't have to, it eliminates the problem of CapEx, where you have to have so many IT assets in your inventory. You no longer need that, right? You just pay for what you use. Also collaboration. So it is very important that startups understand that a lot of the operations of their business is highly reliant on the security of the cloud. So their security posture is very important, because if your business is completely operating on the cloud, you have to make sure that it is secure. Now, take a typical example is your house. You are securing your own house. Technically, you do not want anybody to just come in. And if your house is really important to you, your home is important to you, I guess you really want to secure it. So for startups, a common trend with them is that they do not take cloud security important. And this is based on research. And I've spoken to so many cloud DevOps guys, cloud engineers, cloud architects in startups, in SMEs. And what they tend to tell you is that, oh, they don't bother. If anything, they do not take the concept of shared responsibility very seriously. Oftentimes, it's almost like, oh, we signed a contract with the cloud provider, they deal with the security, we just do our best and leave the rest. That is a very big mistake, because at the end of the day, your cloud provider will tell you that security is a shared responsibility. You have your own duty, I have mine, to make sure that the cloud is secure. Now, what are some common cloud security trends? You have different kind of cloud security trends. This is quite vague, to be fair, but if you look at it from the context of attacks, you have DDoS. DDoS attack is one of the most prominent and common attacks around cloud security, and this is because it targets availability, right? It's trying to disrupt the availability of your systems, of your servers, and when your systems are not available, automatically business is not running. Another problem that I come to identify is the presence of insider risk. Insider risk is actually, when we are told about insider risk, is that they tend to speak more on how it is based on the employees are disgruntled, the employees get disgruntled and plant backdoors and all of that. If anything, insider risk is more from a place of complacency. So people just neglect their responsibilities. For example, why would you get up from your system and not lock your system? Or why do you have to leave your system exposed? For some other people, you spend resources when you know you are not using it anymore. You don't go to disable it, you don't go to terminate it. Patch management is not conducted regularly. You don't do assessment of your security infrastructure. That is very bad. Some organizations take audits very, very, they're so complacent towards audit reports. And it is when the incident has happened and then you are doing a security assessment of the infrastructure, that is when they start to take all those reports seriously. Another thing some organizations do not do is to benchmark against industry standards to see how they are performing, right? When you benchmark against industry standards, you have CIS, you have NIST, you have ISO, you can actually look at where you score on your secure posture, on your security posture. So I would say a lot of the time, insider risk is always described as, something around employees being disgruntled, employees being unhappy. But if anything, it's more about employees being complacent. It is more about management being complacent as well. And this is a typical experience that I've come to see, not just in my own space, but in the space of my colleagues as well. See people that will tell you that, I mistakenly, take for example, my research, some of the cloud architects that I spoke with, when I asked them about their experience with a cloud attack, they'll tell you, yes, they have actually experienced it. Some will tell you that it's impossible for you not to have experienced a cloud attack. So it is almost like it's a norm. Everybody's just waiting. It's not possible. No matter how much experience, no matter how much of an expert you are, you must have encountered a cloud attack before. And then That's the first thing, it's been normalized. And that is a problem. That is a fundamental problem. Then the second thing is then they tell you that, oh yes, it was actually my mistake. Do you get? But however, we're able to solve it because management understands that this thing is not impossible. We are expecting it. You get? So this is a big problem. That for a big organization, they would not want to listen to that because you are putting their reputation at stake, you are putting their data at stake. You get what I mean? They would never want to listen to that. But for a fairly small organization, which I think should actually take it more seriously, because if you are told to pay ridiculous amounts for your ransomware, it can affect your business. For massive multinationals, it might be nothing to them, but for them, it's more about the name, the reputation. That is why they don't take security lightly. But for small organizations where they feel, oh, maybe they have nothing to lose. But well, you have money to lose, and money is important for SMEs, SMBs, and startups, right? Also, with the changing environment right now, name is also important for startups because we are seeing so many startups all around the place. So it is very important that you keep your reputation and take your reputation seriously. So in all, from my experience, I would say that cloud security is not something that is being addressed, that is being taken seriously among startups. And I won't say it covers the entire domain of startups. I'm just speaking from my own personal experience and from my own research. So I do not want to generalize. I actually think they can do better. Management can do better. So the way management will take their financials seriously, I think they should actually put that sort of priority or place that sort of priority towards, they should direct that kind of energy as well towards the security of the cloud. And not just cloud, whatever technology they use, they should try as much as possible to make sure that their IT assets are properly secure. At the end of the day, IT is the driver of the success of businesses in this modern era. So yes, I think that's my 10 minutes.
So much, Solani. Sorry, I forgot to also mention that if you have questions, please put them up on the chat room and we would answer them. I think we're answering them right about now. But I have one question for you, right? So from my own research and speaking with a lot of startups, security on the application level is always easy for them to sort out. I think probably because they've been doing that for some time. And when it comes to the cloud infrastructure level, they sort of have the preposition that the cloud service provider should be the one securing. So everything that the CSP, AWS or Azure or GCP or whoever should be the one handling security for them. Is that the case, or what's the reality like?
To be fair, that's very much the case, right? And even application security is not, the context of application security, I wouldn't say is complete. I think where you have more security is when you look at data. So, when you go past application, when you start to look at the data security, that is when people start to actually take things seriously. Even with application security, endpoint security, it's not completely serious, because when you see startups where people have BYOD, bring your own device, and there is nothing done, there's no security measure to do that, to maintain to make sure that people are actually practicing good security behaviors. There's no accountability. And when it comes to cloud security, with organizations or startups right now, they look at it more like, oh, we drafted a contract with the cloud provider, we told them what to do, we paid them, after all, it was on a pay-as-you-go basis. And they have to just secure it, right? Which is not the case, because as a cloud security architect, I interact with the cloud provider and the customer, right? And a common thing they will tell you is that security is a shared responsibility. If you're starting cloud security, that's the first concept you need to understand, that you have your role to play as much as the cloud provider. If anything, the recourse is to you, because when your data is affected, they will tell you that your data, for all platforms, SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, whatever, serverless, function as a service, data is your responsibility. They are not going to take responsibility for that. So you have to learn to manage your platforms. even for organizations that, take for example, that deal with IaaS, like they use the infrastructure as a service model, right? They get negligence, and these guys don't understand that your infrastructure is at stake. Then now the basic one, SaaS, where all you need to do is protect your data. You still see some people are very careless with it. Just regular updates, to regularly update it is a problem. You get, and it's almost like the next thing they do is to contact support center. Like the first thing they will tell you is, did you give anybody access to your system, or you don't expect us to do that? So there is a very high reliance on cloud service providers. And in as much as these people are experts, for example, guys that are experts in cloud DevOps, cloud architecture, yes, they should be aware of security, but to a certain extent, what they say or what they know is different from what they practice. That's where you have tacit and explicit knowledge, right? I don't know if that's the right thing. Like what they actually learn. These guys go and write Azure exams, AWS exams. What they know is different from what they do. So when they get into the organization, they do things completely differently. And it's not their fault because they are under pressure as well. They are stressed, they are tired. So sometimes people act when they are tired and stressed. And that's the sad thing, and that's when the attack comes in.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've had experience with one of our business partners where they went through a lot of, so the launch period was sort of brought forward, and so they had to go through a lot of stress just to launch immediately. And cloud security on the architecture level was just overlooked, right? Like, and immediately after the launch, in less than 4 hours, everything was gone. So it's like you're wondering, were these people timing me? Were they waiting for, how did they know that I just launched? How did they know that my security was poor? So there are people actually looking out for poor security architecture that they can exploit on, right? It's a reality out there. It's not just gist, basically. All right, thank you so much, Omotolani. So we would have a second poll, right? So this second poll is just for us to see your experience, if you've had any cloud security challenges in your organization. We just want to see what that has been like, if you've had any experience, if you had any security strategies or policies being implemented in your organization as well. I think FEDA should send the polls out now. And while that is going on as well, we can also, if you still have any questions for Omotolani before we introduce CJ, the next speaker, you can please put it in the chat box. If you are looking for, if you want to have a career in cloud security, I think Omotolani is part of a women. Can you tell us more about that? A cloud security for women. Yeah.
I mean, quite a number, so it depends.
Okay.
Yeah, we have CyberSafe, which we all know that is confidence. Confidence is pushing for CyberSafe, which is an amazing platform for women. And I used to be the tutor of cloud security there, but I got really busy, so now I'm a mentor. Also, I recently just founded a community called Cloud Weaker, where that was founded with me and AK and Symbian. So we are putting together all sorts of materials for cloud. So we noticed that we have things around cloud security, we have community for dev, for data, we have community for cybersecurity, but we actually struggle to get community for cloud. Like people are always asking questions. And one of the things is that there are so many resources to cloud security, right? For cloud security is the only career in cloud. And to be fair, cloud security is not a beginner career. I don't think I have seen a cloud security beginner role. It's quite expert role. If I'm right, I don't know.
Yeah.
But so I'm looking at helping people start their careers in cloud. So things around cloud project manager, cloud product manager, cloud support, cloud IAM, cloud transformation, cloud architecture, roles where they do not, my apologies, sorry, roles where they do not have to program to be roles where they do not have to program to be to be successful in cloud, roles where they can quickly get into, that have roles with low barrier to entry.
Entry, yeah.
Yes. So things like cloud architecture, cloud support, cloud project, yeah. So if you're looking into starting your career in cloud, not necessarily cloud security, that is a good for you to join. We provide materials, we recommend free certifications, like, we understand the difficulty of getting this information, so we bring it to you. Yeah, that's it.
All right, that's awesome. So I think we'll include that in our post-webinar mail, links where they can join. So I know I can only see Bemi Mati as a female. I don't know the other names. Some names are unisex, so I can't really tell if a male or female.
Cloudita is for both gender.
Okay.
Everybody wanted to come into cloud. Yeah.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Omotolani. So from me, what I think I got for startups and SMEs to be to understand cloud security is for them to be more proactive, basically.
Yes, that's the word.
Yeah, so because they do have a lot more to lose than the enterprise. For the enterprises, it's mainly just about reputation. And when we look at last year, Uber got hacked like 2-3 times. And the CTO was it the CIO had to even spend some time in jail. For them, it's just reputation. They can pay the compliance fees, they can pay the whatever fee. But for a startup, if it gets wiped off 2 million even naira in your account, you know what that would do to you. That would do for you. All right, thank you, Omotolani. So right about now, we will be getting into the second keynote segment. I think I'll share my screen briefly to introduce CJ Okpala. I'm very excited to introduce CJ. We got to meet just recently. I mean, I had been part of his AWS user community group where he teaches on cloud security, and I mean, from afar it was just amazing, such wisdom, such knowledge and everything. So I'm glad to have him here. So CJ is a cloud architect and also AWS and Azure community builder. Right, is an MVP, and that says it all, over 10 years of experience. So CJ will be telling us a bit about some cloud security best practices that can be implemented on budget, and also what other cost-effective solutions we can implement to mitigate cloud security as a startup and an SME. So CJ, over to you. I think same time, 10 minutes and then 5 minutes Q&A.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
I'm part of the AWS user group, West Africa. So what we do is basically we try to help people get into cloud, and the end goal is for people to get a job, basically. So we started this community November last year, and we have over 1,000 members, so which is quite fast. I'm an MVP. Before that, I'm an MVP with Microsoft, and I have my own community, Azure community, which is almost 2 years plus now. And there we also have close to getting to 1,500 members. So this is what we do, or what the community do, where I just give knowledge, sharing, and help people to get things out of Azure or AWS seamlessly in my own time. So it's quite interesting. So it gives energy, a bit about why I joined technology. From educational background, bachelor's, master's, was in business administration, but then I always had interest to do technology or to work in tech. But finally, I was able to, after my master's, to do some self-study and then push through. Yeah, and the rest is history. So today I'll be talking about vulnerability management. So security vulnerabilities. So I will share my screen. Yes. So you guys still see my screen? I think. Is my screen?
Yes.
Is it visible?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. I think I need to switch through. What about now?
Yes, we can see.
Cool. Yes. So yeah, vulnerability management. So basically, what is vulnerability management? Is how you can protect your application running in the cloud or running in on-prem against attacks. So like David mentioned last year, Uber was hacked and money was lost and ransom, all those kind of things are common things of which startups cannot afford, because you're going to lose a lot of money they have to spend on R&D to grow the company and stuff like that. So vulnerability is basically all those loopholes or endpoints or disattachments where your company can be susceptible to security attacks. And in cloud or in AWS, there are a lot of tools by AWS made in place to protect that. So one of them is basically gateways to manage your endpoints back end, having like endpoints, private endpoint, private link, application gateways, and firewalls. These are kind of tools to manage your back end protections. So we're going to look at basically the types of vulnerabilities in place, and then well, what we have known recently in terms of companies that have experienced attacks or those kind of things recently. So basically, examples are basically, for instance, SQL injection attack, for instance. Okay, let's put it in a picture. Say you have a big bank, and you have all these things in place. You have like a gateman, so a local bank in Nigeria, say UBA Bank or First Bank. You go to the bank, you enter the premises, there's a gateman there, he lets you in, and then you go through the scanner, and there's like a metal detector, and you have like a body scanner, and they basically you also have your security guard inside or whatever, who monitors like social behavior, so those kind of things. And also, you can also have like armed guards in the gates. So these are all security in place, but then there's a loophole. Where can the loophole be? So for instance, in this bank, inside it, the staircase there links to a parking lot. And there's not much in place, security measures to prevent, like, say, for instance, somebody coming through inside the bank and making away with cash or something like that. That's a vulnerability. So according to CIA rating, you could say there's a rating in terms of high, medium, or low risk. Like a rating could be given on that. So when attacks happen, what are the measures? What are you going to lose as an organization? And there are three things you can do. Are you going to accept the risk, mitigate it, or ignore it? These are three basic things. So for a startup, like security is a second thought. It's not a priority for them. When this happens, they are gone. Say, for instance, a common vulnerability is like a SQL injection attack. So SQL injection attack is like a code is being pushed through on your database and everything is down. So for instance, you're using Jumia to make a purchase and you want to pay things through Jumia. You've seen the item you want to buy on Jumia, and then you want to do the final part of the transaction, which is to do payment. then the payment system is down, because the requests you're making at the front end of the web have to hit back on a database that manages the connection between the banking facility and also the Jumia. And that's an endpoint. So, and that is affected. So it could be on the OS layer, so the backend layer, whether a Windows environment or Linux environment, or in the network layer. And that's kind of an instance on that. So further on, we'll look at types of examples of security vulnerabilities. Most common is that of identity and access management. Who has access to an environment or to an application? And that comes to, for instance, further on, say, unpatched software. From my experience, what I've seen, most of the vulnerabilities always started from identity and access management, role-based access control. So in AWS, there's a role-based access control in place to check for authorization and authentication. Who can do what? Contributor rights, owner rights, and just or a reader right. These are three major, but then there are more granularity to that. Another example of vulnerability could be unpatched software. So often tech vendors or software vendors often come up with new versions of operating systems. Say, for instance, your mobile phone, so whether you're using Android or iPhone, they come up with, okay, a patch has to be carried out, or a new feature have to be implemented. So now you have to do that, because why are they doing that? Because there's a vulnerability in place, a likelihood of an attack in place, of which they have to patch up or to prevent. And that requires you to do an update and that's what we call unpatched software. And this is misconfiguration. So often in the cloud or in the enterprise environments, most systems or most applications are misconfigured. And that's the essence of, for instance, using infrastructure as code to do your deployments of, say, Terraform, or using ARM template or Bicep. The reason, because it gives a desired state configuration. All the configuration are mapped out to a standard, pre-configured, and everybody has to do that. Deploying anything on the cloud environment. So you're not just using your hand through the GUI interface to do your deployments. Misconfiguration costs a lot of money, because, for instance, a Databricks environment is configured. Say, for instance, let me use another example with Jumia. Say the payment system and the backend connecting with the e-commerce platform of Jumia is misconfigured. There's a problem there. How? There's a monetary effect there, because, for instance, you're using Jumia and you can purchase what you've selected. That costs time, and then it makes you to lose trust on Jumia. So what you're gonna do, you're not gonna start using Conga. And that way, for Jumia, they have lost money, they have lost business opportunity just because of that. So this is an impact. This kind of, if you weigh the economic effect on it, it's quite a lot. So say, for instance, 20 people or 50 people on Jumia, and they couldn't finish their transactions. And then it happened again, and then they go to Conga or to buy it. And then with Conga environment is fine. Next time, they will probably go use Conga first instead of Jumia. Yeah. Next is weak credentials. So for instance, you have your password in place, and you use, for instance, your date of birth to set up your password, or you use a username that is common to your name or linked to what people know you or what. That's also weak credentials. So somebody can easily use it and have access, pretending that he or she is you. Easy to phish user. So for instance, there's a common thread going on that most hackers go on LinkedIn, and they use the names of popular people in an organization and use their name and write a letter or write an email to somebody within the organization, authorizing a transfer of money or authorizing them to click on a link, of which if they click on the link, their laptop or device is exposed to a malware or phishing, something like that. So phishing is like phishing. The purpose of phishing is that people, the hacker, want to get an information. So using this what we call a social engineering, want to get an information in pretense. Next is just trust relationship. So what is trust relationship? You have a vendor, AWS, and it comes to Wendu, for instance, for all the secrets and passwords used at Wendu for people to log into Wendu portal runs on the back end of AWS cloud. So this password or certificates are under a vault. So what a vault is where you store secrets and passwords, sensitive informations. If somebody within AWS, a worker, compromises that because he or she has access to it, that will cause a problem. And there's a problem with the trust relationship. And then next is compromised credentials. So for instance, any login IDs that has been compromised or have been affected can be used, can pose a challenge, can be used by the person who have already compromised it to do one or two things in the system, in the network, or in the environment of the organization. And then malicious insiders, say for instance, a colleague or a worker who doesn't like his firm, or who has grudges or something like that, can do stupid things that poses or jeopardizes the credibility or the services of the organization, which happens a lot. It's been rampant and it's a common thing seen. And lastly, just poor inscription or missing inscription. So for instance, often you could hear about inscription at rest and inscription in transit. So basically, when you want to transfer data to me, or say I want to transfer data to David, you could see from WhatsApp, you say your end-to-end inscription. So it means that only me and David, if I send information to David on WhatsApp, only me and him can see it, no other person can see it. Even if somebody hacked through, he or she cannot see it. And that is where in AWS, we have tools, features in place to protect that. So end-to-end inscription, and then looking at inscription at rest. So the data at rest, encrypt it with keys, and then store it in a vault. Inscription on transit, when the data is being moved to another location or fetched in another application, there are two sides to an inscription, the keys. One side is held by the individual and the other side is held by the person receiving it. So, and when there's a match on that, then access could be granted, or he or she can see the data being passed through. So this is basically some examples of vulnerabilities. In Netherlands, last year, there was a hospital that was hijacked, so by hackers, and they went into ransom. They couldn't access the database of patients or systems, and they had to pay, I think, over 100,000 euros to restore that. So that's quite a lot. So for a startup or SME, that's quite a challenge. That's a lot of money. Of course, they couldn't afford it. So security is it's a two-way street. So it's a responsibility of you, the organization, and the responsibility of the cloud vendor. So it's a shared responsibility. And this mindset is shared by AWS as well. We're gonna provide the cloud with features that you could build a scalable, rigid, and agile application, very safe. And we're going to give you best practices, things you need to do, and how to do it, to deploy it in a safe, very safe way. And if at any time there are vulnerabilities on our side, on the back-end side, we notice, we're going to do patch up. So you can go on AWS, you can see the monitoring score, you can see vulnerabilities score, give you a score rating on the posture of your architecture, of your environment, or just rank it to 100%. If it's not 100%, it's okay. If it's 70, for instance, it's okay. This 30%, these criteria needs to improve. You need to, and then do this to do that. So that's basically what is vulnerability. So any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, CJ. I mean, I know the time is not enough for it. It's not enough for either of them. But you know, as this being the maiden edition, we weren't so sure about who the audience is, whether it's more on the business level side or the technical level. I'm sure moving forward we'll be able to get more tailored session for our audiences. So while the questions are rolling in, we'll have one more poll, right? So in this poll, basically, like I said, this is a monthly series. So we want to know what topics you might be interested in for us to speak about for the next series. So while that is going on, so CJ, I have a couple of questions. So from what I get from what you said, you know, a lot of what you talked about were mainly to look at the different endpoints. You know, even with the example you gave with the bank and Dreaming and all of that, I think Omotolani touched on this as well, to look at the different endpoints. So as a startup now, I don't have 10 people in my security in my SOC team. I don't have 10 people in my tech team. Is it possible, first the possibility, is it possible for me to have an overview of all these endpoints per time? And is it possible, first of all? So while CJ is answering that, Tega, please let's run the poll quickly so we can get into the raffle draw.
Yeah, so basically like using a tool like Wendu. So you guys have a beautiful tools which I've already tried, quite amazing. You could have a kind of overarching environment to manage different criteria or different endpoints, whether you're talking about network endpoints, front-end endpoints, OS level, data level endpoints, or application layer level. Then you could see it. So you kind of an API thing where you could pull information and say, okay, this is a health posture of this. For instance, you could push a network watcher on it to go through on the network to scan through what are the traffics going through a web app, say from a Jumia.
Yeah.
So something like an application insight, then so you can understand, okay, which IPs are from where. What are the users going through? What are the users reaching out on the web app? Can they continue the transaction to, like, for instance, from picking an item to purchase on Jumia, checking out prices, and then checking out to purchase the what they want. So you could see that, and that way you could see, okay, there's an issue or not, first based on, okay, network downtime or server is down or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, there's a possibility, and there are certain tools, you know, sort of like with Wendu as well, where you can have a good overview, you know, to see different endpoints, to say, okay, this endpoint is okay. And he also talks about the risk rating, the risk prioritization. Yep. So to know which is high, is critical, which is high, which is low, which is medium priority as well. All right, so we would get into the raffle draw now. I think we already had the last poll question and the second one. So we'll get into the raffle draw now. Thank you so much, CJ. I think we have just about, okay, we have a question from Damilola. It says, what of Linux machine? Are there endpoints for, get this up. Are there endpoint security for EC2?
Of course.
CJ?
So basically, AWS have these firewalls, and for instance, there's FJ application gateway and a firewall from AWS you could use to mitigate endpoints and to gather endpoints. Also, you have like and these endpoints are configured within a network security group, so the NSG, where the OS has been configured. So you look at, okay, IP range. So the IP range, private IPs, we have a 10.00 something with a subnet that comes with it. And there's a firewall configured to that. So it's layer 7 firewall that does like SSL offloading, all those kind of things.
All right, so that's more on the subnet aspect.
Yeah, so
Omotolani, did you want to add something?
Oh yeah, just on a less technical, just to, I don't know, for those who are not too technical, basically, yes, there's endpoint security for EC2. You get, like, you can always configure your cloud, like you can always have a good endpoint security strategy to make sure that your virtual machine is secure, is safe. You know, we have like different solutions. We have like the VPC, where you your virtual private cloud, which you can use to, which is used to create the endpoints basically. And also we have things like network security groups as well, where you can actually make sure that traffic that is coming in or out of your virtual machine is properly secure. I think another thing that we always take lightly, because whenever we talk about security controls, we always go to the very technical parts. There's something around identity and access management, right? Always implement like least privilege access and things around, you know, what's it called? Roles and groups. You don't just give everybody global administrator role, for example. Let people only have what they have to do. And if you have to give privileged identity management for maybe accessing your virtual machine or something, let it be based on just in time. So they have to do it when they have to do it, and they don't always have to have that privileged access all the time. So added to all what Chiogo has said, I think, because it's went really, really technical, and you know, with the IP, I think another thing that we can be careful with is identity access management, like accessing the what's it called itself, the EC2 itself, and good security strategies.
So least privilege. So you only give people the only right they need. Say, for instance, a developer should not have an ownership right, just give him a contributor right. A network person who have to do like set up the NSG VNet, only give him him or her network contributor rights, not a contributor right, because a contributor rights have different access to, say, from the resource group level, subscription level, and the resource level. So in the cloud, there are 3 basic levels. You can assign reader rights, contributor rights, ownership rights, subscription level, resource group level, and the resource itself level.
Okay, that's awesome. So we have more questions coming in. Everybody ask a question saying so. All right, so will you have good career opportunities with knowledge of just one cloud platform? So if you have knowledge of either AWS or Azure, will you have a good cloud? Will you have good opportunities, career opportunities, basically? I think that's the question.
Of course, yeah. So basically, I started with Azure Cloud. So I worked for Microsoft 5 years and 1 month. So my cloud journey started with Azure. So since last year, I did a lot of things in AWS as well. So prior to that, I have a lot of career wins with Azure. So definitely guaranteed.
Like when in my my girls in cybersecurity, and this is one question that always comes in. And I think you can learn cloud from a vendor neutral position. So the first thing is to start with having the knowledge, and that's why you have CSK, for example, get certified cloud security knowledge. You can start with that. Another thing you can start with is understanding things around networking. So things that are very unique that are very common rather to all the cloud providers, like understand things around the OSI layers, understand things around firewalls, protocols, or the networking protocols. All of those things are very important. Some basic knowledge around database. And once you do that, whatever cloud provider you go to is fine. So there's this common example I always say, when you want to buy your phone, right? Sometimes you start with MTN. So the fact that you're not using Etisalat does not mean you can't port to Etisalat. The only thing is you're not aware of the services or the products that Etisalat has. But the moment you join Etisalat, you start to get more aware of the products. That's the knowledge I always tell people when they want to start with cloud. Once you understand the basics, pick up one cloud provider and please stay with that for your learning process. Because another problem that people have is they jump from one cloud provider to the other and then they get very confused. Pick up one, try and build projects on that, learn it, know it to a certain extent, then take that knowledge into whatever job role you have. And you start to adapt to whatever they give you. So if your customer or your new company starts to use GCP, all you need to do is to read and take the knowledge into that. The good thing with this is that most of the time when you come into an organization with a different cloud provider, you actually bring in more value because you can identify gaps. That is something that I've experienced. You can identify gaps. You can see where they are not doing certain things right with the cloud provider they are using. And it doesn't hurt to go multi-cloud, So yeah, you can start with any vendor.
All right, so I hope that answers the question better. You can start with one, first have basic knowledge, start with one, get good experience, and then it's basically the same architecture, just different technologies and all of that. So we have one last question from Ragman. It says, if I was working as a cloud security analyst for a startup, aside IAM and vulnerability management, what are other things I need to consider to give my organization minimal level of protection?
Okay. As a cloud security analyst for a startup, the best thing I would give you, and I don't know if she will agree with me, is to get a cloud security posture checklist that complies with a standard. For example, CCM matrix, right? It has everything: third-party risk, IAM, vulnerability management, anything you can think about, it has everything there. So you get a good, what's it called, a globally accepted checklist, a standard, and then try as much as possible to benchmark your assessment and your posture on that. Do not randomly pick something and start to do that. Try and use something that is globally accepted. Benchmark against industry standard, benchmark against market comparators, your peers, and see how you're performing. That is the best way that's the best advice I can give. If you want one, I recommend the CCM matrix. There are so many out there, but CCM matrix is very good. That's the cloud control matrix. It's very, very good. So.
Well, hold on. There's Wendu. Wendu is better. Anyways, CJ, 1 minute, please.
Yes,
Give your response and then we get it.
We use Wendu, so because Wendu is like multi-cloud, so it's not even just the cloud. You can just connect on-prem as well. So Wendu is a good choice to use. It's, you can scale through quickly. It's affordable for your company. Go for it.
Yeah. Awesome. And we just integrated Azure as well. So we have a multi-cloud capability now. So you can switch between AWS and Azure for all your CSPM tools now.
David, please tell them it's very important that they get people to help them do these things, because the mistake a client made was that they got a checklist from ISO, thinking they could do it internally. For them, was bad. It was their third party risk assessment they failed. So it is very important that you get good, like Wendu, to get this done for you.
All right, so we've gone way ahead of past 7 p.m. So let's just run the raffle draw now. So I'll just, guys, so let's all get on kahoots.it. CJ and Omotolani, you're not involved in this because you would win everything. So let's get on kahoots.it. I think we've posted the game pin on the chat room. Right, we posted a game pin on the chat room, so let's get in there. Tega probably need to share the screen so that we can see how many people have joined the game, so we can get that rolling quick as soon as possible and be done with that. So a lot of what we've learned about today is be proactive, vulnerability assessment, IAM, all these things are proactive measures to make sure you avoid. It's better to avoid, the popular advertisements way back in prevention is better than cure. It is really better than cure, especially for us startups and SMEs. We don't have the money to pay, especially for compliance fees. That's another thing we don't really pay attention to. Data compliance. NDPR right now is hammering on Nigerian banks. Like I have a mentor who's a senior banker, and he said just recently one bank, I think, was it sterling or so, were charged 100 million naira, for data non-compliance. So that's another thing, especially fintechs as well. Tega, please let's see your screen so that we can see what's going on in the Kahoots environment, so we can get that. Please share your screen. Player limits. Oh, why is there a player limit? I wasn't aware of the player limits. Oh, so that's so sad. We were not aware that we had a player limit, so we have just 10 players. Oh, so the first 10 people will participate in the raffle draw. The rest of us, I apologize, and please don't give us a poor survey rating after the meeting. We're not aware of that really. We'll make sure that it's sorted out afterwards. All right, so the game starts, right? So it's just we're starting with 2 easy questions, just some icebreaker questions. What superpower would you like to have if you were coach? So the first 2 questions are just some icebreaker questions. You just need to impute the text as to what it would be for you. So what is your hobby? We want to know what your hobby is. One person wants a coding superpower. CJ, what would you do with a coding superpower? Do you even need a coding superpower?
No.
All right. So what's your hobby? 7 answers in. Poetry, walking, making stuff, driving, talking, hacking. Okay, so we have an ethical hacker in our midst. That's good to know. All right, so now we're getting into the tough parts now, starting with an easy question. Which of the following is an example of a cloud deployment model? Easy peasy. Bemi Mati, so sorry you couldn't join. We will definitely recompense. So sorry about that. All right, so we have Rahman leading, Shadow next. All right, so let's move on to that quickly. What is a man in the middle attack? Is it a midfielder, Golo Kante, man in the middle, Rakolele, All right, let's see the leaderboard. Let's see if anyone is overtaking Rahman. Rahman is a bad guy. All right, next one. So we're going to have prizes for the two. Okay, what we're going to do is, yeah, we can't we already have the answers. So we'll have prizes for the top two. For the top two. So the first person will pick either if they want a $100 gift card or they want a free cloud security assessment for their organization. And then the runner-up will get what's left, basically. Shadow is coming up. KO is coming up. So what are some key benefits of CSPM? So CSPM is Cloud Security Posture Management. I think I will miss the scoreboard. I think this one CJ mentioned it in his presentation. Looks like Rahman has this. Rami has come from behind. It looks like a Gran Turismo race going on here. And the last question, which of the following is an example of a social engineering attack?
That's a good one.
CJ also mentioned this. All right, drum roll. Let's see who the winners of the raffle draw are. Yeah, podium, please. We have Shadow coming in third place, Me coming in second place, and of course Rahman stayed top from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. All right, so Rahman, we're going to send you a message, right? And we would get your gift card to you. I mean, you use your nickname, but we need to know your real name, right? Rahman. Yeah, Rahman is his real name. I think the other person, person who carried second, we need to know your real name. Please tell us who you are. So Ferrami. Oh, okay, Adeniji Oluwa Ferrami. All right. All right, thank you. So the rest of you who were not able to join, we are so sorry. I really apologize. We're not aware that we had a 10-player limit on Kahoot. Apologize for that. Okay, so I think we have come to the end of today's webinar. So we have, in the middle of all of this, had a very brief conversation about we've had a conversation about vulnerability management. We've had a conversation about the importance of cloud security for startup and SME. And we've also talked about the CSPM Wendu. And I think in the last poll, there was also an option if you wanted to, if you're interested in speaking with a cloud security expert, we will get in touch with those of you. So how soon are you going to get a recorded session? Let's say before the end of close of business tomorrow, we would send that out. And we also have a few materials that we'll also send out that we feel might be valuable to you guys that are downloadable as well. So like I said, the main point is just to add value to you, add value to your organization, and to let you know that cloud security challenges are not peculiar to you. Everyone goes through them, even the biggest of players, but there's always a way to go around them. Always a way to go around them. So finally, before we go, CJ, tell us about AWS Recap coming up on the 25th of March. And I think Wendu will also be having a proper presentation there. So for those of you who want to see what Wendu does, we'll have a proper presentation there. And CJ, tell us about it.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah, so basically, this Saturday, my community, AWS user group West Africa, we have this event. So this our second event since we started in November. Basically, it's about panel speakers talking about different topics in security within AWS. So I also have a section there we will be delivering data security and Wendu as well. So David also has you have a 10-minute slot to, to tell us my community.
I didn't have the chance today. Well, yeah.
So to tell us about what Wendu does, the platform of which I already tried it, so it's quite interesting. So there, my community is basically where you can learn things on AWS. We give, and the good thing is we give vouchers as well. So credit vouchers, vouchers to get a credit and to create things on AWS and try it out if you haven't tried it out. Often people tech enthusiasts are always eager to get vouchers. So be there, don't miss out. You can win a voucher as well. And we also do cohorts where we give gifts. So last time we did in November, we gave like a full voucher to do it as AWS associate exam. So it's quite interesting thing. I hope you will join it.
That's awesome. I'll be there as well. All the times I've joined AWS, I've never won the Kahoots to win a voucher. It has always been tough questions there. Well, this time around, I'll try and get expo from you. All right. So, okay, Rahman is asking how will you reach out? Yes, we'll reach out to you via mail so that we can send you your gifts. And then we'll also include in our post-meeting mail, we'll have the recorded session, we'll have the material guides to download to improve your organization's cloud security. We'll also have a link to the AWS user security group recap event. And then we'll also have links to Omotolani's many platforms to start up your cloud career. And so yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Omotolani. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, our wonderful host, Tega. Thank you, everyone. Rahman. Thank you, Habib. Okay, Habib is asking, is it a virtual event or physical event? It's a virtual event. That's for the AWS recap. It's a virtual event. So we're going to send the link. It's on the 25th. That's on a Saturday, right? Yes. On the 25th on a Saturday. So we'll send the link for the post-meeting mail. Thank you all so much. We will get your feedback. I think there's a post-meeting survey, so please don't be in a hurry. Just give us, thank you so much, quite an insightful session. We hope the next one will be more specific because this one we tried, we weren't sure we're going to have more business-minded people or more technical people. So we'll have a post-meeting survey after immediately you leave the Zoom meeting. You have please just give us 1 minute of your time. We want to know how we did. And we've also gotten your feedback on which topics you would like us to speak about next. And we'll reach out to every single one of you. Thank you for spending this evening with us. Those of us on the Lagos traffic, what more can we say? One day we'll be like CJ and Omotolani, you know. Anyways, so thank you all and have a lovely week, not long weekend. Have a lovely evening and enjoy the rest of your week.
And nice to meet you.
Bye, everyone.
A pleasure. Enjoy evening, guys.